Okay, so for this first project, I found this little three-tiered star tray at the Goodwill for $5. I think it was like a leftover from Target donation to them. And so I thought it would be perfect and easy to just paint the bottom red, paint the top blue, and then we have a little 4th of July tiered tray. And I think I actually only did one coat for each color. So this next project, I have these old windows, and they actually came out of my house after we put all new windows in. So I kept all of the old windows, and I'm going to clean them up because they were down in my basement and super dirty. And then I realized that there was a crack in the actual glass, so that kind of bummed me out a little bit. So I went and I took all the glass out of both of them and sanded them down using 220 grit. It's a sand net instead of sandpaper, so I wanted to try this out, and they seem to work pretty good. And if you don't use too much of it, then you can actually take that little netting off and wash it and reuse it. So that was pretty cool. So I just kind of sanded them all down to make them smooth, take some of that old paint off. So just taking the hardware off, and I do save that because I want to put it back on, and then I'm going to use the Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Matte White and just spray it, give it a kind of a cleaner look. It did have some staining in it. And then my plan is to put a flag behind it. I've seen this done with a couple of YouTubers, and I just loved how it looked and thought it would be perfect for the 4th of July. You can stick them out on your patio, you can hang them in your house, and I didn't want to put any nails or holes in it just for the integrity of the flag. I just used hot glue so that it could actually be taken off at a later point if they wanted to and change it out. So I just fold it up and kind of hot glue it down. This is actually a very simple project. Didn't take very long at all. It took more time to prep the frame than it does to actually put the flag in. So this flag I have going horizontal like a normal flag, and the other window frame I wanted it to go vertically. So you'll see that in just a little bit. And I kept the other frame more natural, just so that the customers can have a variety if they wanted something different. Love how this turns out. It's just so elegant and stands out quite a bit. It's pretty cool. And I do plan on putting where those holes are on the bottom, I'm going to put a handle there. So here's that other one. I'm going to go ahead and use my antiquing mix. So it's just antiquing wax with a little bit of black paint and then some water. And it just kind of gives that wood a little more depth to it. Doesn't make it look as dried out. Once I get that coat on, I'll wipe it back a little bit. And like I said, I wanted to go vertical on this one, so I found a smaller flag at a thrift store. Actually, I got all of these flags. No, this one I got from the lady that I have my booth with. Her friend had a flag, and he just gave it to me for free, so that was super nice of him. Because I was having a hard time finding them for some reason. So again, I just used the hot glue and glued it down. That little tool that I'm using saves your fingers from being burnt. It's just a little tool I got at the dollar store. It's in the makeup section. I'm not really sure what they use it for makeup, but it's got a silicone end. Look at how gorgeous that is with that wood tone. That is so pretty. Love this one. Almost want to keep this one for myself, put it out on my front porch. But we'll see. So this next project's pretty easy. You just take a 2x4, and I have 4 pieces cut down to 3.5 inches, and the other 2 long pieces are 7 inches. And then I've got chalk paint in crimson and white and blue, and I'm just going to kind of make a flag out of it. I had to sit there and kind of think, what side is going to be seen? What side do I not have to paint? And it just got to almost be too much. I didn't want to have to paint the whole wood piece, but I think I ended up going back and doing it anyway. So I paint one of the long ones, one of the short ones red, same with the white, and then the 2 other ones I paint blue. And then we'll be stenciling some stars on that. Ends up being really cute. And now I'm taking a baby wipe and distressing some of that color back so that you can see the wood. I have 2 sets here, so I left one kind of a clean, fresh look, and then one this distressed look. So I have some kind of variety. Some people don't like that distressed look. Okay, so now it's time to stencil. I have this little stencil I got off of Amazon. And what I do is I have a little makeup sponge, and you can see me kind of dip the sponge into the paint, and then I offload it onto that baby wipe before I stencil. That way it doesn't seep underneath the stencil and kind of bleed through. You just want very little paint on that sponge to make that star image come out. And now we're going to arrange the flag and then just use some ribbon to tie it down. And then I did go back after the video was done, and I actually took some wood glue and glued all the blocks together so that they're not kind of wobbling around. But look how cute that is for a little shelf sitter or tiered tray or something. It's fun. So this project coming up here is going to be about the same thing, but I had this little wooden tag kit for like 3 years in my stash. And I'm like, what in the world am I going to do with this? And I'm like, oh, let's just make a little 4th of July flag. Made it easy, and now I can get it out of my stash. So same thing, kind of like with the blocks. We're going to go ahead and paint the top blue, and then we're going to do stripes down vertically and put some of the stars on top of the blue. And this one, I don't think I used the white. I think I kept the wood grain and put the antiquing wax mix on it to make it more of a primitive look and feel. So here I am going to start taping everything down. So I just take masking tape and I tape the entire thing all the way across. And I think this is like 1 inch or 3/4 inch masking tape. And then I'm going to just take every other one off. And then I'll flip it over and do the same to the back. And kind of line it up with the front. Cover the blue up so I don't mess that part up. And then I'm going to paint my red on. And then I'll go ahead and use my heat dryer to dry the paint so that I can go ahead and move to the next step of putting that antiquing wax on. And so, I did actually sand it a little bit because primitive is kind of a more distressed country look. So I took 220 grit sandpaper and rubbed it all down and then took a baby wipe and wiped off all the dust before I put my antiquing wax on. And I just use a baby wipe to place on that wax. Makes it glide on really smooth. And I put it over the paint and everything just to make it kind of match more. And I should have stenciled my stars on before I did this because I ended up going back over the stars with the antiquing wax as well. So again, with the stenciling, you want to just take some on your little sponge and then offload it first before you stencil the stars. Because you can always go in and make them brighter, but getting that bleed through, if it does come, that it's really, really tough to make them look sharp and crisp. And I will show you all of the projects at the very end. I know I'm kind of speeding through all of this just so that you don't have to sit and watch everything for 40 minutes. But I will go ahead and show you everything at the very end. And this next project, we're going to take this tray that I found at the Goodwill. It was $7.99. It's a nice wood tray. It's a little beat up, but that's okay. It has those metal handles, which is nice. So we're going to make it into a riser. I'm going to go ahead and just take the sticker off, take the hardware off, clean it up really good. And then I'm going to kind of put a coat of, it's called Salvation Solution from DIY. It's kind of a stain blocker. Because of the color of this wood, I wanted to make sure none of the yellowy tans come through. So this is that solution there. And it's a clear. They have a clear and a white. And so I put a good coat of that on just the bottom because I'm going to decoupage some fabric onto it. I'm going to let that dry. And then I went downstairs into my stash and I found these little spindle feet that I could use for the riser part. So I'm going to go ahead and use some of the Titebond wood glue to put those on. And then I'll let that dry for a little bit and then I will add some brad nails in. I just got my Ryobi cordless brad nailer and I'm so excited to not have to have one hooked up to a compressor anymore. It's so nice. So I just put a couple of nails on each foot, making sure I didn't go through. And then I went ahead and used masking tape to tape off the sides of that wood. I just want the bottom to be painted white for that decoupage. And then we're going to use DIY's White Swan. And again, if you want to buy any of the DIY products, you can go to my friend's website. Her name is Debbie, and her website is elsielaneboutique.com. And she's got all the IOD and DIY products available. And then I sell the Fusion mineral paint if you need any of that on my website. So I put a first coat down, dried it, and put another coat down and dried it. And that gave me a really nice base to work with so that that fabric will really pop. Okay, so now we're ready to put the fabric on. And I think I got this little piece of fabric at either the Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby. I can't remember. It came in like a pack of 2. And so I'm just going to cut it down as close as I can to the size of that tray. And I'll be using the DIY's liquid patina. It's a decoupage medium as well as a sealer. So that's like 2 steps in one for me, which is perfect. And this isn't going to necessarily be a tray for food. It's more for like decor, but you can put like maybe a lemonade pitcher with some cups or something on it to serve, or as long as the food doesn't touch the actual tray, it's fine. Okay, so here's that liquid patina. And it's going to be the same as any decoupage with like your decoupage papers or tissue paper. You just, except for with the fabric, you want to put a good thick coat so that it soaks into that fabric. But you can reposition, as you see here. I'm repositioning. I went and got my brayer, and it's going to help get those wrinkles out. But with the fabric, it's a lot easier to get the wrinkles out because it stretches way easier than decoupage paper. And of course, it's not going to rip and tear. So it makes it a lot easier to work with. So yeah, I'm going to put a good layer down, put the fabric down, get the wrinkles out, and then I'm going to go right on the top and put another layer of that liquid patina to help seal it in. And when that dries, I'm going to go ahead and take an X-Acto knife and just cut out the trim. All right, so this is a wreath form I got from the Dollar Tree, and it's just one of those metal ones, and I used the Dollar Tree's burlap ribbon to cover that form, and I used hot glue just to make sure it stays on. So I got this fabric from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just cutting it into about 1-inch strips, and I think I had measured it out to 16 inches long. And so we're going to kind of go for a primitive look, but basically I'm just going to tie all of those individually on there into just a normal knot, and you can see that there's little gaps in between. And so I'm going to take another set of fabric and go ahead and just fill in those little gaps there. And here I am going a little slower so you can see it's just a normal knot. And that helps just fill in the gaps. This is a fun little project if you have a show you're watching or something. It does take a little bit of time, but it's really easy. So I just kind of sit and relax and watch my crafting shows. And I will add the stars after I get finished with all of the stripes. You can leave it like this, which I did make one just to leave like this plain, but I had this wooden star in my stash that I painted with acrylic paint in True Navy. It's Apple Barrel, I think it is. Yeah. And so I thought maybe I could just glue that onto the front and put some embellishments on there just to add a little pizzazz to it. Got this at the Hobby Lobby. It says $10.99, but I got it for 40% off. Nice big garland. So I'm just going to hang a piece of that garland from that star. And I'm just going to use my hot gun to glue it on there. And then I thought, well, we should probably add something else. So I went ahead and glued the star on there. And I've got all that ribbon in the background, you can see. So I went ahead and pulled some ribbon out, and we're going to make a bow. And this is a pretty simple bow. So you just tie this in like you would an awareness bow. And then you take that center piece and push it down to where you're going to pinch it between your thumb and your finger. And then take that other piece of ribbon and just wrap it around the middle and tie it. And that's as simple as that. And then I just hot glue that onto the top of that bead. Kind of fiddle around with it, make it a little pretty, cut the ends. I can fiddle with my bows for hours. All right, got it on there. And then I still wasn't completely 100% satisfied because that star is so blue. So I went ahead and took some white chalk paint and a little stencil brush, and I went ahead and just dry brushed the star. So again, I'm going to load some on there, take it and offload it onto a paper towel. Just very little paint on there. Lightly go back and forth on that until you get the desired look you're going for. Kind of just softens that color a little bit. Allows it to blend into the wreath a little bit more. And there she is. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Here's a little clip of my sassafras doggy. You already went outside. What? Do you want to do the dishes for me? Oh, do you want to do the dishes? You gonna help your mama? What? See what I have to deal with?